Welcome back to the cabin. Today is the 27th of April, and I just drove up to open the cabin up for 2023. So, first thing I got to do is move the stairs up closer to the cabin. I usually move them back at the end of the season. And then one thing I noticed right away is I got one tree that fell down out back, and I'm going to have to take care of that. It looks like it's hung up in some other smaller trees, so I'll have to figure out how to handle that. Okay, so take the walk around first. See, these wild berries are sprouting already. See if I can knock some of those down so I don't have too many of them to deal with. Oh, looks like my wood pile, the cover, my wood pile blew down over the winter. That's all right. I was meant to take that down anyway, so it kind of did it for me. Let's see. Luckily, solar panels look good. Little tarp I put on the wood pile is still pretty much there. That one. Battery box looks all right. And looking out back here, everything seems to be pretty good shape. Still pretty wet up here. Alright, so first thing is to get these steps in place and put the phone down while I do that. Well, everything is just the way I left it inside, and I don't notice any strange smells or odors, so I think we got through the winter okay. So first thing I do is get my wheelbarrow out and bring my gear up. And actually, before I do that, I want to check my my battery voltage in the battery bank, see what that's down to, and then turn on the circuit breakers for the solar panel, so we can get those charging. It's partly cloudy today. You get a little bit of sun and then it goes in, so do that straight away. Alright, so we gotta get the battery box open, and nothing decided to live in there except some spiders, which are fine. Let's test this. Make sure the get a ground here. Alright, so that's saying 11.52. When I tried it before, it was 12.65. Let me, I don't think I have a good ground here. So it's actually 12.665 when I hold both the terminals down hard. So so that's great for being up here about 4 months without any charge. So next is go down cellar and turn on the circuit breakers for the solar panels. Okay, so we'll go down the cellar here and throw on the battery breaker. Battery lights on. Throw on the solar panel breaker and the green solar panel lights on. So we're charging, even though it's cloudy. All right. So hopefully get full charge on that before the end of the day. Now, to bring stuff in from the car. Loads of fun. So I use this wheelbarrow to bring the things up from the car. This is a load of tools, and gotta keep at it. Time to pump some water into the storage tanks from the well. First off, I have to reconnect the piping here. This blue pipe goes on the outside of the accumulator. This inlet pipe from the tanks goes to the right of the strainer there, and I have to put the strainer back in. It goes before the pump. So I gotta disconnect all this and take the strainer off each fall so the water in there doesn't freeze, so I can get all the water out so it doesn't freeze up. So do that, then take the cap off the tank, put in a little bit of bleach, and then I'll run the hose through that window down into the tank, and we'll hook up the pump to the well and get pumping here. So I put the hose down through the window and into the tank, and I'll take the rest of the hose here up on the hill to the well, and I bring up the water pump and the 12-volt battery that powers the water pump, and we'll get the well open. So we are now pumping water into the well. We got the pump down inside the well there, and the power hooked up to the battery. Kind of hear it humming in the background. And I use this 2x6 as a lever to open the top of the well so I can pump the water out. So what I'm going to first do is get some tarp, put it over that open portion, because like 4 or 5 years ago I had it open, I think overnight, just a crack, and a squirrel fell down into the well and drowned. So luckily it was late in the season, so I fished him out with a shovel, and then I poured a bunch of bleach down there, and then by the next spring we're all set to go. I got the opening covered with some tarp while I pump so I don't get any critters in. This well is shallow. It's 10 feet deep. We couldn't dig any further because we hit ledge, and we did the same thing with the foundation of the cabin. We hit ledge in 2 corners, so we actually poured the footings right over the ledge. And so this whole hillside slopes up. Can't really see it in back. It goes up 200 or 300 feet in elevation, and there's a lot of runoff in the spring. So what ends up in the well here is mostly surface water, surface runoff, but it has to go down 10 feet and then percolate up, so that should take care of most of the problems with the water. Yeah, this water is just for sanitary use anyway. It's not for drinking, so it works. Yeah, I have to be careful up here in the spring when the ground is really saturated, because just over there, just uphill of the well, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was walking around and I sunk down into the earth. It was like quicksand, and my leg went down about 2 feet, and the other one was still mostly above ground along with my body, so I kind of worked my way over to the top of the wellhead and pulled my leg out. But that was an interesting experience. My own quicksand up here. So I've covered most of this hillside with wood chips to cut down on weeds. So hopefully the wood chips will prevent any more instances with quicksand up here. It's a beautiful day up here today. This is the 28th of April. Clear skies. Temperatures got to be around 65 or 70 degrees. You don't need a jacket. And you can hear the wind in the trees. While the water's pumping into the tanks in the cellar, I got to put the kitchen back together again. So the spray nozzle here I got to put on. I got to take that off each season because there's any water that is in there would freeze and it doesn't drain completely. And the same thing with the sprayer hose. I got to put the sprayer cap back on. I got to take that off each year for the same reason. One year this cracked. That's just pot metal, but it cracked on me. So I'm learning my lessons the hard way. I got to clean this mess up. This was a little bit of a protected wood pile, but it never worked out that well because the rain would just come in from the side. So instead I just been piling my wood up over there with a tarp on top. Seems to be working pretty good. Let's see. So the winter took this down. I thought it just got blown over, but when I look at some of these pieces of wood, they're actually split. So it wanted to stay up, but it just couldn't stand up to the winds or the snow load, whichever it was. So I'm going to unscrew these pieces of wood and put that piece of plywood someplace and clean this mess up. Most of it's all burn. Got a few gas cans here which I'll dispose of properly. I just don't like to keep those inside the cabin. Nothing flammable inside the cabin, at least at this point. And there's some other trash there I'll have to bring home with me. Well, it started raining outside, so I can't do any more work outside. So my default position when I'm not sure what to do next is to come down into the basement and polyurethane more tug and groove pine, because I know I've got to get this installed, and polyurethaning does take time. And because this is the first time back this season, I couldn't exactly remember which boards had a coat of polyurethane and which ones didn't. I examined them closely, and these three here on the right, they had one coat of polyurethane, so I sanded those and put a second coat down. I've just been using 2 coats of polyurethane on these. A lot of people say 3, but 2 is going to be good enough. And then these 3 and those 2 boards just got their first coat of polyurethane. So we'll come down tomorrow and sand those and put a second coat on. And we'll bring the other ones up probably and nail them up. When I left last November, I think it was, I ran out of time and I was not able to get the tongue groove up between the windows there. I got it up on either side there and there behind the Murphy bed, but this is sticking out like a sore thumb, so it's something relatively quick and easy. So I'm cutting pieces of tongue and groove to go in there, and we'll get those nailed up. I had to go through this pile of lumber on the floor and look at each piece, and that pile there is all bad. I can't use it. Either the groove is broken or it's got marks on it, and going through this pile here, getting out the good boards that I can use. Well, that looks a lot better to my sense of perspective. Don't have the insulation showing between the windows. Of course, there's another row all the way across I have to put on. These loft joists are temporary. They're just for me to use when I'm putting tongue and groove up on the high ceilings underneath the rafters. So we got 1.8 inches of rain last night, and you can see the water running down from the hillside. And I dug that trench around my septic system to make sure the water goes around it. But you get water flowing here that's seeping out of the hill here behind the cabin. So it's all really wet back here, but it's draining nicely. I was out this morning and I saw some hay fields in town that were underwater, had big pools of water in them. So I can't complain up here. Did a nice job grading this so the water stays away from the house. I have these collar ties in the loft area, joining both sides of the roof. There's 4 of them in the middle, and when I put them up, I was in a hurry, so nothing's level, and it actually looks like I was drunk when I installed them, which I was not. So, project is to level them all out at the same height. I have to do this now before I start the tongue and groove on the underside of the roof rafters. The lofts on each end have loft joists, you can see them there, which keep the ends of the cabin from pulling apart. But in the middle of the cabin, it needs these collar ties to hold the roof together at the bottom so it doesn't try and spread apart. I have temporary loft joists. You can see there where that plywood is, which I'm leaving here so I can work on the underside of the roof to nailing up the tongue groove pine. But those will come down once I'm finished working up here. So that area will be open, and you can sit down there and look up at the high ceilings. So because those will be gone, and the sides of the cabin won't be held together in the middle, that's why I need the collar ties up here. So I'm going to build a jig to hold up each end of the collar ties at the same height. It's going to be roughly about 12 feet. The jig's going to be pretty ugly looking, made from scrap lumber, but I need 2 of them because I'm working here by myself. So let's find some wood to use. Well, it's not pretty, but it'll do the job. It's exactly 11 feet 2 inches, I think, from the floor up to this point here. And these 2 boards will slip around the collar tie and to hold it in place while I reposition it. Hopefully, see if this works. I gotta build another one too. That's all cut to length. I just have to screw it together. That's what it looks like in place, holding up the collar tie. Actually, that end of the collar tie is pretty spot on, the right height. This other end is about 1 inch high, so I gotta drop this end, and this end may turn out to be fine. I may not have to touch that because it's going to be tricky because the chimney pipe's over there and I can't get a ladder in there. I have to put some boards across the loft joists to support myself if I have to work on that side. Well, let's finish the other one. Well, I got 2 of them nice and level at the same height, the first 2 here, and I got 2 more in back to do, but I have to do those next trip because I got to drive home today and it's getting late. Have to pack the car and get going. So yeah, my jigs for holding up the cross pieces, they worked well. I just had to clamp them to those temporary loft joists so they didn't slide sideways. Halfway done on this one. Well, that's going to do it for this trip to the cabin. We got the place opened up for the season, pumped some water. The batteries were in good shape. They were at 95%. After having endured the 4 or 5 months of winter without being charged. So that was good to know. The week's been rainy, mostly rainy. I did have like 2 afternoons where I got some sun, and the charge controller indicated the batteries were full. And we got 2 of those cross ties up and leveled, and we got a little bit of wood nailed up on the back wall inside, and we got a bunch of boards, polyurethane. So I'm gonna call it a good trip. So thanks for watching. If you like the channel, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. And I'll see you next time up at the cabin. Bye.